It started on a Tuesday morning, not with a system crash, not with an alarm, not with a frantic call from the night shift. Just a quiet moment in a maintenance office, the kind of moment that usually slips past unnoticed. A technician walked in, coffee in hand, ready to face another day buried under a mountain of overdue work orders. The backlog had been growing for months. Too many assets, not enough people, and a scheduling process that felt like it was held together with duct tape and hope. But today, something was different. The whiteboard, normally covered in scribbles, arrows, and crossed out assignments, was clean. The digital maintenance dashboard, usually a sea of red, was neatly organized, and the parts cage, which had been a disaster zone for weeks, had 3 new deliveries already logged and waiting. The technician frowned. Who reorganized the schedule? No one answered. He checked the system logs. No human had touched the workflow since midnight. Instead, a new entry appeared. Maintenance optimization agent, actions executed. At first, he assumed it was a glitch, some automation script gone rogue, another IT experiment pushed into production without warning. But as he dug deeper, the truth emerged. Overnight, the AI agent had triaged the entire backlog, prioritized tasks based on asset criticality, scheduled technicians according to skill and availability, ordered parts that were trending towards stockout, and even coordinated downtime windows with operations. No one asked it to, no one supervised it, no one even knew it was capable of doing all that. It just acted. And the wild part, it didn't break anything, it didn't misfire, it didn't create chaos. It quietly did the work that normally took a team of humans hours of coordination, and it did it while everyone was asleep. By the time leadership realized what had happened, the conversation had already shifted from, what did the AI do, to, what else can it do? That was the moment the organization crossed a threshold. The moment AI stopped being a tool and became something else entirely. A workforce multiplier. Not a chatbot, not a dashboard, not a digital assistant waiting for instructions, but an autonomous agent, a system that could perceive, decide, and act across an entire workflow. And once you see that happen, once you watch an AI agent take over a process end to end, you can't unsee it. You realize the future of work isn't theoretical anymore. It's already here, quietly reshaping operations one workflow at a time. So today we're going to talk about what this shift really means for organizations, for teams, and for the professionals who will soon be managing fleets of AI agents instead of task lists. Because the next revolution in productivity isn't automation, it's autonomy. Why AI agents are the next workforce revolution. What happened in that maintenance office isn't just an interesting anecdote. It's a sign of a much larger shift, one that's moving through industries faster than most leaders expected. For years, AI has been treated as a tool. You opened an app, typed a prompt, asked a question, or ran a model. AI waited for you. It responded when you initiated the action. But that era is already fading into the background. We're entering a new phase, a phase where AI doesn't sit idle. It doesn't wait for instructions. It doesn't operate as a passive assistant. Instead, it observes. It evaluates, it makes decisions, and it acts. This is the rise of AI agents, autonomous systems designed to pursue goals, manage workflows, and execute tasks across entire processes without constant human involvement. And this shift isn't theoretical. It's happening right now inside logistics networks, financial operations, customer service organizations, supply chains, and corporate back offices. Across the enterprise landscape, early adopters are already deploying agents in high-impact areas. In logistics, agents are optimizing routes and load balancing in real time. In procurement, agents are managing reorder points and coordinating with suppliers. In customer operations, agents are triaging issues and resolving cases before a human ever sees them. In corporate workflows, agents are handling scheduling, reporting, compliance checks, and routine decision cycles, and the results are significant. Organizations are reporting dramatic reductions in cycle time, sometimes 20, 40, even 60%, not because people are working harder, but because agents are working continuously. No shift changes, no backlog buildup, no waiting for approvals that can be automated. Just persistent autonomous execution. But the real inflection point, the part that's reshaping strategy in boardrooms, is this. Leaders are beginning to see AI not as a software upgrade, but as a workforce multiplier, a way to expand capacity without expanding headcount, a way to eliminate the friction that slows teams down, a way to let people focus on strategy, creativity, and complex decision-making while agents handle the operational load. This isn't traditional automation. Automation follows rules. Agents pursue outcomes. Automation reacts. Agents anticipate. Automation is a tool. Agents are collaborators. And once an organization experiences that shift, once they see an AI agent take ownership of a workflow and deliver consistent results, the mindset changes almost immediately. The question stops being, should we use AI? It becomes, where else can we deploy agents? That's the moment we're in right now, a turning point where the organizations that embrace autonomous agents will accelerate, and the ones that hesitate will find themselves outpaced. What AI agents actually do beyond chatbots and co-pilots. Before we go any further, it's important to clear up a misconception. When people hear the phrase AI agent, many still picture a chatbot, a conversational interface, a digital assistant that waits for a prompt. But AI agents are something very different and far more powerful. An AI agent is a persistent, goal-driven system. It doesn't just answer questions. It doesn't just provide suggestions. It doesn't just assist a human operator. It takes action. It works toward an objective. It executes multi-step tasks. It coordinates across systems. And it does all of this continuously, not just when someone interacts with it. Think of it this way. A chatbot is a conversation. An agent is a worker. So, what does that look like in practice? AI agents have several core capabilities that set them apart. First, they can reason across multiple steps. They don't just respond to a single instruction. They break down a goal into smaller tasks and figure out how to accomplish it. Second, they can orchestrate systems. They move between applications, databases, and platforms, pulling information from one place and taking action in another. Third, they can make decisions. Not a high-stakes strategic decisions, but operational ones, the kind that keep workflows moving and prevent bottlenecks. Fourth, they can monitor conditions in real time. They watch for changes, anomalies, or triggers, and they act the moment something requires attention. And finally, they can operate continuously. They don't wait for a human to log in. They don't need a prompt. They don't stop at the end of a shift. They run as long as the system is running. These capabilities open the door to a wide range of real-world applications. In manufacturing, agents are already analyzing sensor data, predicting equipment failures, scheduling maintenance, and ordering parts, all without human intervention. In logistics, agents are optimizing fleet routes, adjusting to traffic patterns, and rebalancing inventory across distribution centers. In energy and utilities, agents are forecasting demand, balancing load, and coordinating distributed assets across the grid. In field services, agents are dispatching technicians, preparing job packets, and sequencing work based on urgency and resource availability. And in corporate operations, agents are handling reporting cycles, compliance checks, onboarding workflows, and routine decision chains that used to require hours of manual coordination. These aren't hypothetical use cases. They're happening right now inside organizations that have decided to move beyond pilots and start deploying agents into real operations. And here's the key point. AI agents don't replace entire jobs. They replace tasks, the repetitive, rules-based, coordination-heavy tasks that slow teams down and drain capacity. What they create is a new kind of partnership. Humans focusing on judgment, creativity, and complex problem solving, while agents handle the operational load that keeps the organization running. This is the foundation of the workforce multiplier effect, and it's the reason AI agents are becoming one of the most important technologies shaping the next decade of business. The workforce multiplier effect, humans plus agents as hybrid teams. Now that we've defined what AI agents actually do, let's talk about why they matter. Not in theory, but in the day-to-day reality of how work gets done. Because the real power of AI agents isn't just their autonomy, it's the way they multiply human capability. For decades, organizations have tried to optimize workflows by adding more tools, more dashboards, more software layers. But tools still require people to drive them. Tools still depend on human attention, human coordination, and human bandwidth. AI agents change that equation. They don't just make individuals more efficient. They expand what teams can accomplish. They create a hybrid workforce, humans and autonomous agents working together, each doing what they do best. Here's how that partnership breaks down. AI agents take on the work that slows organizations down, the repetitive task, the data-heavy analysis, the constant monitoring, the coordination across systems, the follow-ups, reminders, and routine decisions that quietly consume hours of human time. Humans, meanwhile, focus on the work that truly requires human judgment, strategic thinking, creative problem-solving, relationship building, complex decision-making, handling exceptions and edge cases. It's not about replacement. It's about redistribution, shifting the operational load away from people so they can focus on a higher value work. And when that shift happens, something remarkable emerges. One person can effectively manage the output of what used to require an entire team. Imagine a customer operations manager who used to oversee a group of analysts manually triaging incoming cases. Today, that same manager might oversee a fleet of AI agents that sort cases by urgency, draft responses, escalate exceptions, resolve routine issues automatically, and surface only the complex situations that require human insight, or picture a supply chain leader who once spent hours coordinating with procurement, logistics, and inventory teams. Now, AI agents handle the cross-functional coordination, and the leader focuses on strategy, risk, and long-term planning. This is the workforce multiplier effect in action. It's not about doing the same work faster. It's about doing more work, better, smarter, and with fewer bottlenecks. And here's the part that's easy to overlook. When agents take over the operational load, humans don't just become more productive, they become more valuable, they become orchestrators, supervisors, decision makers, professionals who guide and direct intelligent systems rather than getting buried in the mechanics of the workflow. This is the beginning of a new professional identity, the AI augmented worker, someone who knows how to collaborate with agents, audit their decisions, and leverage them to achieve outcomes that were previously out of reach. And as more organizations adopt agents, this hybrid model will become the norm, not the exception. The organizational shift from roles to outcomes. As AI agents begin taking on more operational work, something interesting starts to happen inside organizations. The structure of work itself begins to shift. For decades, companies have been built around roles, fixed job descriptions, predefined responsibilities, and clearly segmented functions. Every task had an owner, every workflow had a department, and every process depended on people manually moving information from one step to the next. But when AI agents enter the picture, that model starts to break down. Agents don't think in terms of roles. They think in terms of outcomes. They don't care which department owns a task. They don't wait for handoffs. They don't get slowed down by organizational boundaries. They simply pursue the goal they were designed to achieve, whether that's reducing downtime, improving customer response times, optimizing inventory, or accelerating a reporting cycle. And when work becomes outcome-driven instead of role-driven, organizations begin to operate differently. The first major shift is that traditional job descriptions start to feel outdated, not because the jobs disappear, but because the nature of the work changes. Instead of spending hours on repetitive tasks, employees spend more time reviewing agent decisions, handling exceptions, guiding strategy, managing edge cases, and ensuring the system stays aligned with business goals. The work becomes more analytical, more supervisory, and more focused on judgment. The second shift is that teams become more fluid. When agents handle the operational load, people aren't tied to narrow task lists. They can move across functions, collaborate more easily, and focus on higher value initiatives that were previously pushed aside. The third shift is the emergence of a new kind of professional, someone who is comfortable directing, auditing, and collaborating with autonomous systems. This is the AI native worker. They don't need to be data scientists. They don't need to write code, but they understand how to work with agents, how to interpret their outputs, and how to guide them toward better outcomes. This skill set is becoming just as important as traditional technical expertise. And then there's the fourth shift, perhaps the most important one. Organizations begin to realize that their competitive advantage is no longer tied to how many people they employ, but to how effectively they combine human talent with autonomous agents. The companies that thrive in this new environment will be the ones that redesign workflows around outcomes, empower employees to collaborate with agents, build oversight frameworks that ensure safety and alignment, and create cultures where humans and AI systems complement each other. This is not a small adjustment. It's a structural transformation, one that changes how work is defined, how teams operate, and how organizations measure success. And like every major shift in business history, it comes with risks. Because when agents take on more responsibility, the potential for silent failure grows. The hidden risks: drift, misalignment, and silent failure modes. Up to this point, we've talked about the power of AI agents, how they expand capacity, streamline operations, and reshape the way organizations work. But there's another side to this story, a side that leaders cannot afford to overlook, because the most dangerous failures in AI systems aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet ones. They're the failures that don't trigger alarms, don't crash systems, and don't announce themselves with obvious symptoms. They're the failures that hide inside the workflow, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, quietly steering decisions in the wrong direction. And AI agents, with all their autonomy and speed, can amplify those failures faster than any previous technology. Let's break down the three most important risks. The first is goal misalignment. Agents are designed to pursue outcomes, but if the objective is defined poorly, or if the system interprets it too narrowly, the agent may optimize the wrong thing. It might reduce cycle time at the expense of quality, or minimize cost while creating downstream delays, or prioritize speed over compliance. The agent isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it was told, just not what the organization intended. The second risk is model drift. This is one of the most subtle and dangerous failure modes. Over time, the data feeding an agent changes. Customer behavior shifts. Seasonal patterns evolve. Market conditions fluctuate. And the agent, still confident in its decisions, begins to make choices that are slightly off, not wrong enough to raise suspicion, just off enough to compound over time. This is how a forecasting agent can slowly overorder inventory, how a routing agent can gradually increase delivery delays, how a procurement agent can drift into patterns that inflate cost. Nothing breaks, nothing alerts, but the system is no longer aligned with reality. The third risk is over-automation. When humans become so accustomed to agents handling the workflow that they stop paying attention, situational awareness fades. People assume the system is correct, and when something finally does go wrong, no one notices until the impact is already significant. To illustrate this, imagine a procurement agent responsible for maintaining optimal stock levels. For months, it performs flawlessly. Then, a subtle shift in demand patterns begins to skew its forecast. The agent starts ordering slightly more than needed, just a few percentage points at first. No one questions it because the system has been reliable. Weeks later, warehouses are overstocked, cash flow is strained, and operations are scrambling to unwind the excess inventory. The root cause wasn't a bug. It wasn't a system outage. It was drift, slow, silent, and invisible. This is the new reality of autonomous systems. They fail quietly, they fail confidently, and they fail in ways that traditional monitoring tools aren't designed to detect. This is why governance matters, not as a bureaucratic layer, but as a strategic necessity. Because as organizations deploy more agents, the question isn't just, what can these systems do? It's, how do we ensure they stay aligned, stay safe, and stay accountable? Governance for autonomous agents, the new safety playbook. As organizations begin deploying AI agents into real operations, one truth becomes unavoidable. Autonomy requires oversight. Not because agents are unreliable, in many cases they're remarkably consistent, and not because they're inherently risky. The risks come from how they're deployed, monitored, and integrated into the business. The real challenge is that autonomous systems operate at a speed and scale that humans simply can't match. And when something goes wrong, it can go wrong quietly. That's why governance isn't optional. It's foundational. It's the difference between AI agents becoming a competitive advantage and becoming a liability. So, what does effective governance look like? It starts with 3 layers of oversight, a safety playbook designed specifically for autonomous systems. The first layer is pre-deployment guardrails. This is where organizations define the boundaries, what the agent is allowed to do, what it's not allowed to do, the objectives it should pursue, the constraints it must respect, the data sources it can rely on, and the escalation paths it must follow when uncertainty is high. This is the equivalent of giving the agent a map, not just of the destination, but of the roads it's allowed to take. The second layer is real-time monitoring. This is where most organizations underestimate the challenge. Traditional dashboards aren't enough. Uptime metrics aren't enough. Error logs aren't enough. Agents require monitoring that focuses on behavior, not just performance. That means tracking. Drift indicators, anomalous decisions, deviations from expected patterns, changes in data quality, and early signs that the agent's internal model no longer reflects reality. This is how organizations catch silent failures before they become operational problems. The third layer is post-action auditing. Every decision an agent makes should be traceable, not to micromanage the system, but to ensure accountability and transparency. Auditing answers the critical questions. Why did the agent make this decision? What data did it rely on? Was the outcome aligned with the intended objective? And if not, what needs to be corrected? This is how organizations build trust, not blind trust, but informed trust. But governance isn't just about tools and dashboards. It's also about people. As agents become more embedded in operations, organizations will need new roles focused on supervising, guiding, and evaluating autonomous systems. Think of them as agent supervisors or AI operations leads, professionals who understand the workflows, understand the business objectives, and know how to interpret agent behavior. Some organizations will go even further, establishing AI operations centers, centralized teams responsible for monitoring fleets of agents across the enterprise. This isn't bureaucracy, it's infrastructure. The same way cybersecurity teams became essential when digital systems became mission critical. And here's the key point. Governance isn't about slowing innovation. It's about enabling it. When organizations put the right guardrails in place, they can deploy agents with confidence, they can scale faster, they can take advantage of autonomy without exposing themselves to unnecessary risk. Because the goal isn't to control every action an agent takes. The goal is to ensure that every action stays aligned with the organization's values, objectives, and operational reality. The future workforce, humans leading fleets of AI agents. If you look ahead just a few years, the future of work starts to come into focus, and it looks very different from the organizations we know today. Because as AI agents become more capable, more reliable, and more deeply integrated into operations, the workforce begins to evolve into something new, a hybrid ecosystem where humans don't just use tools, they lead fleets of autonomous agents. This isn't science fiction, it's the natural progression of everything we've discussed so far. Agents handle the operational load, humans guide the strategy, and together they create a level of productivity that simply wasn't possible before. Imagine a professional in 2030. They don't start their day by checking dashboards or sorting through emails. Their personal AI agents have already done that. One agent has summarized overnight activity. Another has flagged anomalies. Another has drafted responses, prepared reports, and queued up decisions that require human judgment. Instead of being buried in tasks, the professional begins their day by reviewing, approving, and directing, not doing. This is the shift from task execution to task orchestration, from being the worker to being the leader of intelligent systems that work on their behalf. At the organizational level, this transformation becomes even more profound. Teams become smaller but far more capable. Departments become more fluid because agents handle the cross-functional coordination. Workflows become more adaptive because agents can respond to real-time conditions without waiting for human intervention. And the competitive advantage shifts. It's no longer about who has the largest workforce. It's about who has the most effective human-agent collaboration model. Organizations that embrace this shift will move faster, operate more efficiently, and innovate more aggressively. They'll be able to scale without adding headcount. They'll be able to respond to market changes with unprecedented agility. And they'll be able to unlock value that traditional structures simply can't reach. But perhaps the most important change is what happens to the people inside these organizations. As agents take on more of the operational burden, humans become more strategic, more creative, more focused on solving problems that truly require human insight. The future professional isn't defined by how many tasks they can complete. They're defined by how effectively they can direct, supervise, and collaborate with autonomous systems. This is the rise of the AI-augmented workforce, a workforce where every individual has leverage far beyond their personal capacity. And as this model becomes the norm, the organizations that thrive will be the ones that invest early in the skills, structures, and governance needed to support it. Now that we're at the end of this episode, I'll bring all of this together, outlining the leadership imperative for this new era and what organizations must do today to prepare for a future where AI agents are not just tools, but essential members of the workforce. The leadership imperative. As we close out this episode, one thing should be clear. AI agents aren't a distant concept. They're not a futuristic vision. They're here now, already reshaping operations, workflows, and the very structure of modern organizations. And the leaders who recognize this early will define the next decade of productivity. Because the real question isn't whether AI agents will become part of the workforce. They already are. The real question is, how prepared is your organization to lead in a world where humans and autonomous agents work side by side? This moment demands a new kind of leadership, one that understands both the opportunity and the responsibility that come with deploying autonomous systems. Leaders must be willing to rethink how work is structured. They must be ready to redesign processes around outcomes, not roles. They must invest in the skills their teams will need to collaborate with intelligent systems. And they must build the governance frameworks that keep agents aligned, accountable, and safe. This isn't about chasing trends. It's about building the operational backbone for the next era of business, because the organizations that thrive will be the ones that deploy agents with intention, monitor them with discipline, empower employees to work alongside them, and treat autonomy not as a shortcut, but as a strategic capability. And here's the truth. The future of work isn't humans versus AI. It never was. The future is humans amplified by AI agents, professionals who can do more, see more, and achieve more because they're supported by intelligent systems working continuously in the background. This is the workforce multiplier effect. This is the next frontier of digital transformation. And this is the moment for leaders to step forward and shape what comes next. So as you think about your own organization, your teams, your workflows, your strategy, ask yourself, where could AI agents create leverage? Where could they eliminate friction? Where could they unlock capacity you didn't even realize you were missing? Because the companies that answer those questions today will be the ones setting the pace tomorrow. Thanks for listening to The Digital Revolution. Let's continue the conversation and continue shaping the future of intelligent work.